First up with us this morning, it is a pleasure to welcome him back to Ben and Woods. He is the athletic director at San Diego State University. J.D. Wicker is with us here on the Mighty 1090. J.D., good to have you back on. Good morning to you.
Good morning to y'all, and it's my understanding, happy birthday to Ben.
Thank you very much, J.D. Yeah, the big
29.
4-3. It's not a milestone, so... just quickly, any thoughts on last night, Aztecs in their exhibition game against Chaminade? I know it was a little closer than maybe you'd want against a Division II opponent, even in an exhibition game.
I think the important thing with the exhibition games is, one, you definitely hope to win, which we checked that box, and first time to really get out in front of people as a team, play somebody with a different jersey on the other side and kind of see what it's all about. You got to get back into the groove, and I'm sure they're watching the film and figuring out all the different things they want to work on going towards Pine Bluff on Tuesday. But, we're happy we got a W, and we know what we need to work on as we move towards the regular season.
So, JD, we did a poll earlier this week asking our listeners their opinions of the Sdsu Mission Valley plan, Measure G, versus the Soccer City plan, Measure E. It was incredibly close. I know there's been other polling that has shown SDSU West out in front. 10 News, my other employer, did one of those. I've heard Soccer City folks say they've done their own polling. Whatever it is, it seems like that both sides are going to want to get as many people out to the polling places and the ballot box this weekend to make their pitch. So I'm going to give you the opportunity here as we get really close to the day on Tuesday for the election to give us some of your best arguments in favor of Measure G, SDSU West. You've been a proponent since it came out. To me, what's the final message you want to leave with voters heading into Tuesday?
I think the important thing that you mentioned is everyone should get out and vote. That's more important than any individual race or whatever it may be is exercising that constitutional right. But as we look at Mission Valley and the opportunity for SDSU to implement the SDSU Mission Valley plan that we've created, obviously Measure G is the initiative that gives us that opportunity. And it's a river park, it's housing, it's mixed-use retail, and it's a great community-based stadium. It's a stadium that's built for football and for soccer. We were very intentional with our architects that it needed to be something that accommodated both. It's also easily expandable. It's something that, as we continue to build our football program and we move into a stadium that in the coming years, if we need to expand, we can. And most importantly, it's the expansion of higher education. San Diego State being a $5.67 billion economic impact to the region every year. Over 60% of our living alumni are here. This drives San Diego. This is a legacy event that benefits San Diego and our sons and daughters and grandchildren forever, as opposed to a development that plays for a soccer team.
Talking to J.D. Wicker here on Ben and Woods this morning. And, J.D., obviously, when this goes to the ballot box and we count the votes, the best case scenario for you guys is to win this outright. I mean, I've seen people voting no on both. I've seen people saying they're going to vote yes on both. How convoluted can this get? Because it's felt a little convoluted to this point, but what's the worst case scenario for you guys, I guess, at this point?
Yeah, obviously, if neither measure passes on Tuesday, then you're kind of back to the drawing board, and the city has indicated that they're ready to go forward with an RFP process. That can be, if that's what it ends up being, it'll be interesting to see how quickly we can move that along. Obviously, San Diego State is very interested in building a stadium as soon as possible. SDCCU on so many different levels checks no boxes for us. It's a place we can play, but it's way too big. It's outdated. The video board was used when the Chargers put it in 2003 or whatever that was. So we want to we need to build a venue that's great for SDSU football, for soccer, for everything else, and it's experiential. Think Petco Park, and it's the Padres, but it's all the other things that come with it.
Let me go on that a little more, JD, because you made some comments in a UT article that I saw this morning about the stadium size and what you guys are planning to build. how do you expect? I mean, is there a different plan for a long-term future in the Mountain West versus the possibility of joining a Power 5 conference at some point where you think you might need more seats? Can you be flexible in terms of stadium size? And what is the right size in your mind for an SDSU football stadium?
Yeah, right now I think 35,000 is right where we need to be. It would create some demand. Right now, it's if you choose on November 10th for the UNLV game, that's probably going to kick. I think it's at 7:30 kick. If you choose at 5:30, hey, let's go down to the stadium and go to the game. You can buy a 50-yard line ticket in the club because there's just so many tickets. A 35,000-seat stadium is small. It's intimate. It'll get loud. It'll generate excitement. And people, they'll have to plan ahead to go. And I think that encourages people to actually attend games when they actually have to buy the ticket ahead of time and know that they've got it, so they have to get there. As you look at positioning yourself for the future, I have no idea what the Pac-12 or the Big 12 is going to do, what the NCAA may look like in 10 or 15 years. You can look at all kinds of different stories out there about what people think. But what we need to do in San Diego is position San Diego State to be at the highest point that we possibly can. And when presidents make these decisions about expanding conferences, it's not just what you do athletically. It's they want to associate with like institutions. So San Diego State as an academic institution needs to continue growing like we have been, headed towards that top 50 research institution that we want to be, so that we're attractive to university presidents as an institution as well as an athletic department.
JD, I think JD Wicker, San Diego State athletic director, with us on Ben and Woods. And in any contentious election, you're going to see the TV ads. I've seen a ton of them back and forth on both sides. One of the ones that is against Measure G talks about the cost of maintaining Sdsu Stadium until you get that new stadium built. $6 million a year is thrown out there. What, in your perspective, what's the reality there? Is that something that SDSU could shoulder? Would that still be on the city as long as SDCCU Stadium is open? I think it's one of those key issues that does have some taxpayers at least worried.
I think, something important. Last year was the first year the city really got to go out and market the building. When the Chargers were in town, it was a little more challenging for a number of reasons. And the loss to the city was $3.7 million, not $6 million that, other folks like to tout or hire. But that's incumbent on the city to continue marketing the building. If Measure G is successful and we move forward with the negotiation for the sale of the property, we take over the stadium as soon as the sale is consummated. So, it could be less than one more year that the city would have that. So the quickest way to get that off the books is, probably for Measure G to win and San Diego State to have that opportunity. And, it could be one of those things where we look to take over the operation of the stadium earlier if we know we're having good discussions. So it's obviously something that's been touted a lot, and our goal is to move as quickly as possible to get a new stadium up so it's either off of our books or off of the city's books.
JD, let's say the result doesn't go your way, just hypothetically here, and the Soccer City Measure E passes. Would you be prepared at that point to go back to the negotiating table and work out some sort of deal for the Aztecs to play in whatever stadium gets built in Mission Valley? What are the recourses at that point for San Diego State?
Obviously that's something we'll have to look at if the other measure does win, and they are going to move forward with a stadium. Again, we would have to have that discussion. It has to be something that works for San Diego State today and in the long term. We've been playing football for over 100 years. We're going to be here. As everyone in this town knows, there's no guarantee that a professional team is going to start playing here and still be playing here 10, 20, 50 years from now. So it has to be something that works for San Diego State University. And if it doesn't, then we have to look at all options. But we'll see what happens on Tuesday and be prepared to move forward.
I think one part of each proposal that I think a lot of people are excited by is the River Park aspect. I mean, everyone knows, how ugly the parking lot and the river and trashy it's gotten, and something that the community can really get behind. For Measure G, for SDSU West, how does that work? Who pays for it? How quickly does it get built? What would be the plan to make sure that River Park gets in? Where does the funding come from for something like that?
So that's something that San Diego State is committed to building the River Park. As part of the initiative, my understanding is the folks that wrote Measure G, they left the ownership of the land with the city so that they control any future development or whatever that might look like on the River Park. They control it. San Diego State has committed to build the River Park and maintain it using, fees that would be generated through the folks that are the ground leases, the folks that are renting apartments, the folks that are in the commercial spaces and on campus. So it works really well both ways. The city controls the property, yet San Diego State is responsible for building and maintaining the River Park, and that would be something that we could put into the sales agreement that's what we're actually going to do, and it's binding, obviously, at that point. And we'll start the River Park immediately as soon as we get the environmental impact report complete. And again, we're the only people doing the CEQA process, so informing what traffic mitigation should be and all the other environmental factors. We will put a shovel in the ground, hopefully, in the first quarter of 2020. And the River Park and the football and the stadium are the first two things that will happen. The stadium would open sometime in 2022 in time for Aztec football, and the River Park will be coming online as they complete it.
Well, J.D., really appreciate you giving us some time this morning, so close to Election Day, laying out some of the facts and figures with Measure G. Before you go, speaking of football, got to kind of get back on track tomorrow after the loss at Nevada, going to Albuquerque. Getting some of those players healthy back, though, could make a difference. Your thoughts on the matchup tomorrow against the Lobos?
Yeah, I think one of the important things to remember, as you kind of alluded to there, is we're 6-2 right now, playing with basically the backup backfield for the overwhelming majority of the season. Agnew beat Arizona State. Agnew beat Boise. So the opportunity to get Christian back and then Jawan, whether it's this week or next week, and Isaac Lassard will be, is very important as we still have, our number one box to check is win a conference championship, and we still control our own destiny for a conference championship. So look forward to getting back in the winning column tomorrow night in Albuquerque, and, appreciate everybody watching at 7:15 on ESPNU.
All right, thanks, J.D. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, guys, appreciate it.
J.D. Wicker, Athletic Director, San Diego State University, and, of course, one of the proponents of Measure G.